This week, several House Democrats were barred by security from entering the Department of Education building in protest of Elon Musk's DOGE committee examining the agency for budget cuts. We know that members of the DOGE team, some as young as 22 years old, now have top access to department's email accounts, and they're reportedly feeding sensitive information into AI software as they pursue this purge of government workers. What are your thoughts on that?
The whole thing is just insane, Reverend Sharpton, just mind-boggling. We had everybody come meet with us at the Department of Education. It was an open door. People would agree with us, people would disagree, people protested us. You meet with everybody. That's what you do. You talk and listen. To lock people out of the department, to lock out members of Congress, we're in uncharted, in very, very scary times. And let me just sort of cut to the chase. We have a reading crisis in this country. We saw the recent NAEP scores that were far too low. We have to figure out how to accelerate the learning of tens of millions of kids across the country. We have to help them catch up. We can't have a lost generation of kids. Nothing of what President Trump has talked about, nothing is how we help kids learn to read. And we know he lies constantly, he lies incessantly, but every once in a while, he'll give a little bit of truth. I'll never forget when he said, "I love the uneducated." Yeah. And he meant that because the uneducated are less able to think critically. They're less able to discern truth and information from disinformation. And when your goal is to be an authoritarian leader, the less educated a nation is, the better your chances. So what's his motive? Randy talked about follow the money. That's exactly right. Follow the power. If he can destroy education, that gives him a much better chance of becoming the kind of authoritarian leader he craves to be, he desires to be.
Randy, even before this purge, the president and his allies repeatedly cast government employees as enemies. How does that disrespect trickle down to public school teachers doing the job right now? And what impact does it have on recruiting women teachers, black teachers, transgender teachers, people whose identities and experience are being targeted by Trump as we speak?
Well, I want to just go back and say, even I just saw some news reports, a lot of teachers, probably about 20% or so, who probably voted for Donald Trump. And when you ask them, you're going to take away Title I when we have a reading crisis, you're going to take away the services we have for kids to help them read, help them do math. What this is that teachers are trying to do everything they can to meet the needs of kids. This just makes it harder. This is what we saw in Florida. This is what we've seen in other places. The culture wars just make it harder. Teachers are going to try to do everything that they can. But this fear of knowledge and this fear of helping all kids and this fear of pluralism, it is, as Arnie says, it is a fear of trying to help all of God's children actually have the opportunity to achieve what they want to. We should not be fearful of the next generation. We should give them the support they need. I'll say one more thing, which is the same month that all of this is happening, Donald Trump put out something about Career Tech Ed Month. And it could have been written by us. If you want to have builders, if you want to have the kind of opportunities and workforce development that we need to have a federal intervention to do this work. And yet, one of the people who are put on leave is the person who's totally in charge of all of the grants that go for Career Tech Ed. So this just seems crazy because it's just undermining even purposes that Donald Trump says he wants. This chaos is the problem. We as community need to band together to fight for our kids and fight for working folks.
David, I want to go back to you. I want to focus on the issue of race. HBCUs have been shaping and preserving the African-American identity in this country since before the Civil War. How is that mission being impacted by a political climate where some of our leaders seem determined to discredit any Black American in a position of authority as a beneficiary of DEI? That's the only reason they're there.
Yeah, I don't see, 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 historically Black colleges and universities, at least when I talk to my colleagues who lead these institutions, starting to change our agendas to fit into these edicts that are coming down. There's a lot of anxiety. So, for example, all of the anti-DEI rhetoric, there is some worry that historically Black college and university will come to mean DEI when we've actually been not a DEI strategy, but a strategy for access for those who have been excluded.
Right.
And to represent the America achieving its values around all people are created equal with inalienable rights. That's been our intervention. But we will get, because people will see Black, they will say that anything that benefits our institutions is a DEI intervention.
Yeah, that's the new word. That's the new buzzword they use, which is totally off the mark. Arnie, conservatives have complained for years about having school curriculum imposed on them from the federal government. Now, under Trump, they want to impose rules on how schools across the country teach students about race, gender, and history. What changed?
Well, nothing's changed. Again, just the level of dishonesty and the level of lies. So to be very clear, the federal government is prohibited from touching curriculum. So that has never happened under any Secretary of Education, Republican or Democrat, to date. And Trump talks about small government, but he's actually trying to whitewash history and change and affect curriculum in ways that no one has ever done. And all these things, CRT, DEI, ESL, they just weaponize any three-letter acronym and sell fear. And what I say all the time is that education should be the ultimate bipartisan issue. There's nothing left or right or Republican, Democrat about more kids having access to high-quality pre-K, helping our third graders read at grade level, raising graduation rates, increasing access to college. Those are nation-building goals that we should all share. We might have debate about strategies to get there. We can all share those nation-building goals. Trump is trying to destroy the nation. Yeah. He has no goals educationally, and that's the challenge. So I don't want us to get caught in the small ball stuff. This is a direct frontal attack on education, early childhood, K-12, higher ed. He has no interest in having a more educated, a more thoughtful, a more discerning American public. That is not in his interest.
And he's basically said that. Randy, I'll end with you. This Trump administration has made the jobs of teachers seem more precarious than ever. In addition to whatever actual rules may be imposed from above regarding teaching about race, do you worry there will be a chilling effect that leads teachers to censor themselves because they're afraid of a backlash? We're out of time, but I want you to briefly respond.
Yes. I mean, the answer is yes. It already has happened on the state level. We had a RAND report that showed that about 2/3 of teachers already self-censor themselves. So think about what happens. You have to use in a classroom, and Rev, you've seen teachers do this. In a classroom, you have to meet kids where they are, and you have to help open the aperture. Really make sure that they're thinking, that they have agency, that they're engaged. All of this, when you're thinking, oh my God, what's going to happen to me if I do this? It chills everything. Knowledge is key to opportunity. As Arnie said, this is a direct attack on knowledge and on our future and on our nation and on our nation building. And that's why I think Republicans, independents, and Democrats alike are going to fight back on this.
All right. I want to thank all of you very much, former Secretary Arnie Duncan, Randi Weingarten, and Dr. David Thomas of Morehouse College.